I threw out your little hobby supplies while you were at your mother's," my mother-in-law Constance announced with a satisfied smile, settling onto my living room sofa like she'd just completed a charitable act. "The garage is finally clean. You're welcome." My husband Daniel sat beside her, saying nothing, his silence a betrayal louder than any words. But why did my calm response make Constance's smile falter, and why did the lawyer's letter that arrived 3 days later turn her triumphant expression into absolute terror? "Mrs. Constance Whitmore," the letter began, "your destruction of $2.3 million in contracted inventory designated for Walmart distribution constitutes tortious interference with business relations, criminal destruction of property, and breach of commercial contracts. Legal proceedings will commence unless full restitution is made within 30 days. Constance called me 17 times that evening. I let every call go to voicemail. I'd been making candles since I was 16 years old. It started as therapy. My grandmother taught me during a summer when my parents were divorcing, and I needed something to focus on besides their screaming matches. The methodical process of melting wax, measuring fragrance oils, centering wicks. It became meditation, sanctuary, a space where I controlled something in a world that felt chaotic. I kept making candles through college, through my first job as an accountant, through meeting Daniel at a friend's wedding and falling in love with his quiet steadiness. What I didn't expect was that my therapy would become a business. It happened gradually. Friends requested candles as gifts. Their friends requested more. I started an Etsy shop just to cover supply costs, and found myself fulfilling 50 orders a month, then 200, then more than I could count. By the time I married Daniel, my little hobby was generating $400,000 in annual revenue. By last year it was generating $3.2 million. The business grew into something I'd never imagined. What started as hand-poured candles for friends became Luminera Home, a brand carried by boutique retailers across 23 states. I'd developed proprietary fragrance blends, secured wholesale contracts, and built a manufacturing operation that employed 12 people. The Walmart contract came through 8 months ago. Their buyer had discovered our products at a trade show and loved our signature Coastal Morning line. After months of negotiation, they'd agreed to a trial distribution in 847 stores, a contract worth $4.7 million over 18 months, with potential for national expansion if sales met projections. The inventory in my garage, the hobby supplies Constance had thrown away, was the first shipment. Hand-finished products worth $2.3 million, scheduled for delivery to Walmart's distribution center in 2 weeks. Gone, all of it. Because my mother-in-law decided my work wasn't worth the space it occupied. Constance had never approved of me. Daniel came from old money, the kind that announced itself in trust funds and family estates and summer homes in the Hamptons. Constance had expected him to marry someone from their circle, a debutante, a banker's daughter, someone who understood that Whitmore women didn't work. Instead, he'd married an accountant who made candles in her spare time. "It's sweet that you have hobbies," Constance would say at family dinners, her tone suggesting sweetness was a disease. "But surely you don't need to work now that you're married to Daniel." "I enjoy my work, but it's not real work, is it? You're playing with wax." I'd stopped explaining, stopped defending, stopped trying to make her understand that my playing with wax employed a dozen people and out-earned her son's trust fund distributions. Some battles weren't worth fighting. Until she threw away $2.3 million and thought she was doing me a favor. The destruction was methodical. Constance had hired a junk removal service while Daniel and I were visiting my mother for the weekend. She'd instructed them to clear the garage of crafting supplies, all 4,200 hand-finished candles, the custom packaging, the shipping materials, everything staged for the Walmart delivery. The service had photographed the haul, they'd documented the disposal, they'd even sent me an invoice forwarded to my email with Constance's cheery note. "Thought you'd want the receipt for your records." Evidence. She'd created comprehensive evidence of her own destruction. When I returned home Sunday evening and found the empty garage, I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't confront. I called my lawyer. The legal situation was devastatingly clear. Constance had destroyed contracted inventory without authorization. She'd used our property, the garage was in my name, to stage the destruction. She'd interfered with a commercial contract worth millions. "This is criminal destruction of property," my attorney Martin Reeves explained, plus tortious interference with business relations. "The civil damages alone could exceed the value of the inventory. Walmart may sue for breach of contract, your suppliers may claim damages, and you have personal claims against her for the destroyed property. What are my options? You could press criminal charges. You could sue civilly. You could do both." He paused. "What do you want to happen?" I thought about Daniel, sitting silent while his mother announced her destruction, About 12 employees who depended on me for their livelihoods, about the Walmart contract that represented years of work. I want her to understand what she did, and I want to be made whole. Then we proceed. The lawyer's letter arrived at Constance's estate 3 days later. I know this because she called me 17 times in 2 hours, each voicemail more frantic than the last. Natalie, this is a misunderstanding. Call me back immediately. You can't be serious about this lawsuit. My lawyers say this is extortion. Call me back. I didn't call. I let her stew. Let the reality of what she'd done penetrate her certainty that she was always right. Daniel called once. I answered that one. My mother is beside herself. Good. Natalie, she didn't know. Didn't know what? That my hobby was a business? She didn't know because she never asked. She didn't know because she decided my work was worthless without ever bothering to understand what I do. I kept my voice level. She threw away $2.3 million, Daniel. She destroyed inventory contracted to the largest retailer in America. This isn't a family squabble. This is a catastrophe she created. Can't we handle this privately? Your mother hired a junk removal service to destroy my livelihood while we were out of town. She sent me the receipt with a smiley face. There is no handling this privately. What do you want me to do? I want you to decide whose side you're on, because when she announced what she'd done, you sat there and said nothing. You let her think she'd done something good. Silence on his end. I didn't know the scale. You knew it was my work. You knew it mattered to me. That should have been enough. I hung up. The family meeting was Constance's idea. She arranged it at her estate, summoning Daniel, his father Harold, and various family attorneys to what she probably imagined would be an intervention against my unreasonable demands. I arrived with Martin Reeves and 2 boxes of documentation. This is absurd, Constance began, her voice carrying the imperious tone she used with servants. I was helping. That garage was a fire hazard. The garage was inspected and insured for commercial inventory storage. Martin interrupted. Your client's assertion of safety concerns is contradicted by the documentation. I didn't know it was valuable. Ignorance isn't a defense against property destruction. The items had clear commercial packaging. The quantity alone suggested business inventory, not hobby supplies. Martin opened his folder. Furthermore, Mrs. Whitmore had been informed multiple times about the nature of Mrs. Natalie's business. We have testimony from 3 witnesses who heard her dismiss the information. Constance's attorney whispered something urgent. She waved him off. This is family money being used to attack family. No, I spoke for the first time. This is family money that was spent destroying my business. I don't want family money. I want the money your mother owes for what she destroyed. Harold, Daniel's father, finally spoke. How much are we talking about? The inventory value was $2.3 million. The Walmart contract, which may now be terminated due to non-delivery, was worth $4.7 million over 18 months. Consequential damages, including reputation harm and supplier relationship destruction, could add another $1 million. The room went silent. That's impossible, Constance whispered. They were candles, just candles. Just candles that I sold to Walmart. Just candles that employed 12 people. Just candles that generated more revenue last year than your son's entire trust fund. I met her eyes. You decided my work was worthless without ever asking its worth. Now you're learning the price of that assumption. The negotiation took 6 hours. Constance's attorneys argued every point, but the documentation was overwhelming. I had contracts, invoices, photographs of the destroyed inventory, the junk removal receipt she'd helpfully provided, and testimony from my employees about the scale of operations. By midnight, we had an agreement. Constance would pay $2.3 million in direct restitution for the destroyed inventory. The Whitmore Family Trust would cover an additional $1.8 million to settle the Walmart contract breach and supplier damages. In exchange, I wouldn't press criminal charges or pursue further civil action. This is extortion. Constance spat as she signed the papers. This is consequences, I replied, something you've apparently never experienced before. Daniel and I separated 3 months later, not because of the lawsuit, though that was the catalyst. Because his silence in that living room had revealed something I couldn't unsee. He'd watched his mother destroy my work and said nothing. He'd let her believe she was helping and never corrected her. He'd chosen family peace over his wife's livelihood. I didn't understand how important it was, he said during our final conversation. That's exactly the problem. You didn't try to understand. You let your mother's narrative about my little hobby override what you could see with your own eyes. I shook my head. I needed a partner, Daniel. Not someone who'd let their mother destroy everything I'd built because confrontation was uncomfortable. The divorce was amicable. He didn't contest anything, perhaps out of guilt, perhaps out of recognition that his family had caused enough damage. I kept my business. I kept my name. I rebuilt. Walmart waited. Against all expectations, they didn't terminate the contract when I explained the situation. Their buyer, the one who'd discovered us at the trade show, advocated for us internally.
Catastrophic events happen, she told me over the phone. What matters is how you respond. Can you deliver a replacement shipment in 60 days? I can deliver in 45. We worked around the clock, hired additional staff, called in every favor from every supplier. My team rallied in ways that still make me emotional to remember. 43 days later, the replacement shipment left for Walmart's distribution center. The trial period exceeded all projections. 6 months later, we expanded to national distribution, 2,100 stores, a contract worth $12 million annually. Luminara Home became one of the fastest-growing home fragrance brands in the country, all because my mother-in-law threw away $2.3 million and taught me exactly how much I was capable of rebuilding. I saw Constance once more, at a charity gala 2 years after the settlement. She was thinner, older, diminished in ways that went beyond physical appearance. The lawsuit had become local gossip, the socialite who'd destroyed millions in merchandise and had to raid the family trust to pay for her mistake. She approached me near the bar. "Natalie, Constance, I want you to know, I understand now, what I did." She couldn't meet my eyes. "I've followed your success, the Walmart expansion, the magazine features. You've built something remarkable." "I always was building something remarkable, you just couldn't see it." "I know, I was so certain I knew better." She paused. "I'm sorry." I considered her apology. The woman who dismissed my work, destroyed my inventory, and forced me to rebuild from ashes was standing before me, humbled by consequences she'd never anticipated. "Thank you for saying that. Do you forgive me?" I thought about it. The terror of finding that empty garage, the sleepless nights rebuilding inventory, the marriage that had ended because her son couldn't stand up to her. "I don't know, but I've moved past it. That's what matters." She nodded slowly and walked away. I returned to the gala, to the colleagues and partners who valued my work, to the life I'd rebuilt without the Whitmore family's approval. Some things, once broken, create space for something better. She called it a hobby because that's all she could imagine a woman like me creating. She threw it away because she couldn't conceive that my work had value, but the lawyer's letter told a different story. $2.3 million in inventory, a Walmart contract, a business that outperformed her assumptions by every metric. She learned the cost of her contempt, $4.1 million, and her son's marriage. I learned something too. I learned that sometimes the people who dismiss you do you an accidental favor. They show you exactly what you're capable of rebuilding, and they teach you, permanently, that the only approval worth seeking is your own.